Private mortgages check all the boxes of an ideal investment, but in this video, I'm going to cover the #1 reason investors fail at it and what to do to avoid this critical pitfall. My name is Chris Nichilo, aka The Wealthy Lender. I'm also the founder of Magnetic Capital Group, a licensed mortgage brokerage and administrator in the province of Ontario and Canada's premier private mortgage administration firm. Now, over the past 5 years, I've helped other investors lend over $110 million in private mortgages secured against residential properties in Ontario with no losses and an average annual return just under 10%. I don't say that to impress you, but rather to impress upon you that what I teach is not a get-rich-quick scheme, quite the opposite in fact. But if you invest in private mortgages the way I do, you'll probably get rich quicker than you think. And with my approach, you'll enjoy a smooth investment experience, produce consistent, predictable returns, and never lose sleep worrying about your money again. It's a great question. You have the typical sort of knee-jerk response would be, well, people just pick bad loans, right? They pick the wrong people to lend to. And of course, if you do pick the wrong borrowers to lend to, then you're going to have some issues. But I think the root of that problem goes back to the application stage. And I think the biggest reason why investors fail ultimately is their inability to generate enough applications to look at for two reasons. Number one, if you don't generate enough applications to look at, you're probably not going to find that much quality, because the numbers say, I've been doing this a long time, that for every 10 applications I see, I might fund 1 or 2. So actually, it's 80 to 90% that we don't fund. And so you need to see a lot of applications to find that quality loan that you're looking for. There is a lot of quality out there, and I'll explain why in a minute, but you do need to see quite a few applications. The other piece of it is that the more applications you see, the better feel you develop for understanding the difference between strong and weak applications, being able to sort them. So it's important to get a consistent flow of new applications to look at for those two reasons. Now, stepping back to sort of dive into, how that issue leads to making bad decisions, is that here's how it works. If I don't see enough loans, let's say I only see, 2 or 3 applications, and I've got my $100,000 that I want to lend out, and all 3, I look at and I'm like, I don't really love any of them. There's, application A is terrible. That one for sure I'm not funding. Application B is marginally better, but I'm really not comfortable with it. And application C is kind of on the border, but still not like giving me the warm and fuzzies. So you decline all 3, but then you don't have any other applications to look at. And so here's where you end up. You end up in this place of scarcity where you're an investor. Your goal is to get your money lent out so you can earn a return, and you're not earning a return. And what happens is that starts to haunt you. You start to get impatient, right? Because you're like, every day that goes by, I'm not earning a return. This isn't working the way I need it to. And so the answer is one of two things: either find more applications, which at this stage maybe you don't have, or revisit the old applications and dig them up, right? So where do you start? Well, you start with application C, because it was the one that kind of gave you the warmest feeling, even though it was sort of the best of the bad. And so you relook at application C. Next thing you know, you make a bad decision, right? So you decide, maybe, I was a little harsh in my assessment of this application. And that's probably not true. You were probably bang on, and you should trust your gut at all times. But you end up funding a loan that maybe you shouldn't, because you're like, well, at least I'm going to be making some money, and what's the worst that could happen? And those kinds of thoughts are terrible. But let's understand that is the root of the problem, and then think about the market itself. So you might ask yourself, well, are there enough applications out there for me? And the reality is there is no shortage of borrowers. And the reason that's true is because for most people, their house is their largest asset, and in a lot of cases, the largest source of untapped wealth is equity in the home. So there is no shortage of borrowers looking to access equity in their home, because anytime a crisis happens or you need a significant amount of money to fix financial circumstances or whatnot, that's where you're going to look. And when we go to the bank, which is our first stop, because the bank typically has the cheapest money, we find very difficult guidelines to fit into. We find, very rigid boundaries. And so, a lot of people just don't fit. So when they need the money, they can't get it. And that's where we live, is just outside the bank. And, there's a lot of good borrowers with good jobs and good credit and good history that should be bankable, but aren't bankable. And those are the people that we're looking for. So if you're thinking, oh, well, how am I going to find 10 applications or 20 or 30 to sift through? I don't want people to think, they're not out there. There's lots, okay? But the question is, where do you find them? And so there's two ways to go about finding those applications and connecting with those borrowers. One would be very traditional marketing, right? Digital marketing, social media ads, Google ads, that type of thing. You could even canvass your neighborhood if you wanted, door to door, and let people know that you're a private lender. The problem with digital marketing or any kind of marketing is usually it costs money. And that's counterproductive to the investment strategy, because every dollar you put in is a dollar you have to give back through your returns. So actually the answer to where to find the borrowers is through networking with the people those borrowers are going to approach once they've been declined at the bank. If this content is resonating with you and you want to learn how to structure your private mortgage investing for long-term success, I invite you to join my free school community, The Wealthy Lender's Brain. Inside, I offer a free online course on private mortgage investing, where I dive deeper into everything that's covered in this video and provide tools to help you apply the solutions I suggest, so you can build a steady deal pipeline and never make decisions from a place of scarcity. As a member, you can also post questions in real time and get them answered quickly. Plus, I host weekly live Q&A sessions where you can talk to me directly and get the guidance you need to navigate your investments successfully. Click the link in the description below to get access. It's quick and painless to join. And now that you understand the importance of consistent deal flow and know where to go to get support, let's talk about how to actually build a reliable pipeline of quality applications without breaking the bank. Yeah, so if you kind of just think about it logically, a person who has been declined by their bank is going to look for professional help, right? So where might I turn? And I would say the top three on the list in order would be a mortgage broker, right? And then number two would be a lawyer. And number three would be an accountant, someone who deals with money. So, the largest group of professionals that would be sort of the gold mine, if you will, of where a private mortgage investor would want to spend most of their networking time would be with the mortgage broker channel. And so in Ontario, for example, we have over 20,000 licensed mortgage brokers in the province. And it's really just from once you realize, oh, there's this body of people who my ideal client is going to, and that they exist, then it's a matter of assessing, how do I get in touch? Well, it's not difficult to get in touch with mortgage brokers. They want to know that you in their local area have money to lend. So it's really just a matter of getting in touch and letting them know a few key things. Number one, I'm a private mortgage investor. Number two, I have this much money to lend. And number three, these are the guidelines that I'm comfortable lending within. Now, my suggestion would be that you begin the relationship with a phone call or an email, and just identify those three things. Just keep it very simple and initiate a conversation. I think it's different than you think. I think there are very few private lenders, especially individuals, who are reaching out to brokers in their area and letting them know they have money to lend. I think this is a very new space for the average person to feel like they can participate in. I think As a broker, I was a broker for years, and if I'd have got a call from someone locally who said, "Hey, I have some money to lend," it wouldn't have been sort of the normal daily course. So I think in that sense, it's really great because you will stick out. But part of the broker's job is to establish a stable of private mortgage investors they can call when their client gets declined by the bank. Obviously, a broker is going to go to an A-level institution first, the cheapest money. I mean, that's where they're going to go. Cheapest money first, and then perhaps a trust company after that, or an insurance company who may charge them a little bit more, but it's still a financial institution. And then, and they call those B-level mortgages. And then you're into that C-level or private. And the dynamic is, I think that, you're looking for a broker who is not just going to send you an application and say, "Let me know what you think." They're going to take you through the profile of the borrower. And I think it's really important that you learn which brokers are sort of the truer professionals in your space, because a professional broker doesn't want to waste their time just throwing applications at you and throwing credit bureaus at you and throwing appraisals at you and saying, "You let me know what you want to do." A good broker will come to you and say, "Listen, here's the profile of my borrower. Here's the issues. Here's the circumstances. Here's what the collateral is like. I've done the due diligence for you. I'm here to answer questions." And the idea is to get to a win-win. And that win-win needs to be, for you, a situation not only where you like the collateral, not only where the borrower can make the payments, but also that there's a viable exit strategy. And that broker who is representing, keep in mind, the broker represents the borrower. They do not represent you or your interests. If you wanted someone to represent you, it would be a mortgage administrator, okay? And we can talk about that in another video. But for this, you have to understand that the broker's duty of care is to the borrower. And so you want somebody who gives you the sense that they're being transparent, that they're being upfront, and that they're sharing all of the information with you in the interest of getting a win-win scenario. And I think you do have to be careful that you're not dealing with sort of a hustler type who is looking simply to get a transaction done at your expense, and then they'll disappear and you'll be left with the loan and dealing with the borrower yourself. So it is sort of buyer beware. But the answer to, or the solution to the problem we're addressing today is network yourself to the professionals that the borrowers who have been declined at the bank are going to go to organically to seek a connection to someone like you. And if you can do that successfully, then you will find that there will be no shortage of applications for you to look at. And the consequence or the benefit there will be that you'll be able to sift through a number of them and pick out the highest quality ones.